thought I had lucked out. I hadn't heard anything about it anywhere. A special limited edition copy of Dark Souls featuring extra story content. The Xanthos edition. I snatched that thing up as soon as I saw it. It looked legit. It arrived in the mail the day after I ordered it. A nice package featuring some art of Xanthos King Jeremiah. I thought it was a little odd that the manual was just gibberish, but I chalked it up to a translation or printing error or something. The game played the same as any other copy until it came to the paged world of Ariamis, and fought King Jeremiah himself. He went down easily enough, but immediately after I received a message saying that I was being invaded. This was a little strange, seeing as I was offline, but I figured it must be part of the special edition. Then the game faded out in what seemed to be a cutscene. Slowly, very slowly, bare feet moved forward in the snow. All around them on the ground was a long golden cloth. The camera panned up. The body was desiccated in the way the undead are in the game, but at the base of the neck it changed. The neck itself was enormous. Muscles and deformed bone bulged beneath paper-thin skin. And the head, it was swollen to a grotesque degree, and it completely enveloped any features that would have shown it was not a massive tumor, apart from the lips, which were purple, and larger than they had any right to be. They twisted into a sort of half-frown, half-grin. The head bobbed on the stalk of its neck, as if it would fall off. Its patches of raw red flesh began to bleed. The lips moved slightly as if they were trying to speak, but all that came out was a gurgling, and a yellow bile with chunks of phlegm in it. It looked far, far too realistic, and it made me feel a bit sick. I waited for the cutscene to end. It didn't. The screen just focused on that repulsive bloated face. I thought the game might have been frozen, but the face was bleeding and dripping pus. I tried to pull up the system menu from my controller, but none of the buttons were working, even though it was connected to the PS3. I moved to turn the system off, and the thing yelped and sputtered, startling me. I froze and looked at it again, blubbering and wheezing. It made me nauseous, so I made another move to turn the system off. It made some more panicked sounds and coughed and snorted blood and drool and snot, and as I turned the game off it screamed. This was very disconcerting, and even though it was late, I really didn't want to go to sleep. I turned the system on and told myself I'd play some more on a new character. I created one, but as soon as I was given control, I received the message I was being invaded, and was immediately shown that disgusting, cancerous mass of a head. I pulled out the disc and it screamed again, but I was brought back to the main PS3 menu and my nice swirling color background. I turned my television system off and laid back in my chair. I decided I'd just head straight to sleep, but my throat was beginning to feel a little sore. So I went and got a glass of water, I took some Advil, came back to my room and the PS3 was on. Strange, I was fairly sure I had turned it off. Wondering about this, I turned my television on and jumped as I saw the king's face on my screen. It had become the background. How did it... Maybe the game had downloaded it? Weird, but I guess it was possible, even if no other game had done that. I tried pressing the power button, but the PS3 just wouldn't seem to turn off. I ended up having to unplug it. My head began to hurt, and I went to bed. I woke the next morning, thankful I didn't have any nightmares about that nightmarish face, and got up to see that self-same face staring at me from my television set. Thoroughly disturbed, and with a terrible pain in my neck and a stepped-up feeling head, I unplugged my TV and my PS3, which had somehow reconnected itself. I tossed that special edition in the garbage, too, and went online to write a scathing review and complain to the seller. Problem being, I couldn't find the seller after several hours of searching, on multiple sites, not just the one I had made my purchase on. I went onto the Destructoid forums to ask if anyone else had heard about the Xanthos edition. No one had, and I was also called a cunt a few times. I was beginning to feel like shit. I must have been coming down with a cold or something, or at least I thought so. Just before I logged off, someone private messaged me, saying they had bought the edition too, and wanted to talk about it. Only problem is they were going through some kind of sickness and wouldn't know if they would be able to use the computer much longer, as they may have to go to the hospital. I wished them the best, and hoped to talk about the whole thing soon. A week passed with no contact, and my cold got worse. My neck was killing me, my head felt like it was full of water or something, and my eyes were bloodshot. My nose also ran like a faucet. I went to the doctor and they told me to just keep drinking orange juice and taking cold meds and hopefully it would be gone soon. Finally, though, the day I got back from the doctor, I had a message from the person I wanted to talk to. It was not encouraging. In fact, it was nonsensical. He just kept writing, Jeremiah, yellow, head hurts, over and over again. I wrote a message to them asking if they were okay, but I never got a response. I became seriously ill and began having nightmares about that face. My copy of the Xanthos edition went missing from my garbage too, I noticed when I was taking out the trash. I went to the doctor again. I had to have my mother take me. I was so out of it. She seemed really worried. Said I looked really bad. The doctor asked me if I had any allergies, and I told him no. So he prescribed something to alleviate the swelling. He also took my weight and measured my height. He told me I had grown almost an inch, which was strange for someone my age. I just wanted to sleep. I almost couldn't eat or drink. My neck and throat hurt so bad, and my lips were beginning to bruise up. My head was constantly swimming, and I had to sleep propped up in a chair, for fear I would choke on my own throat lying down. The next day I woke to find the back of my head stuck against my chair where I had been resting it. I pulled away, and I almost couldn't stand. My head wobbled on my neck, and my face was so swollen I almost couldn't see. Breathing hurt. Coughing was worse, and there was a lot of coughing. My neck hurt. My head hurt. I struggled to my bedroom mirror and was horrified at what I saw. That face. The horrible face of the king. I coughed and sputtered blood and mucus onto my mirror. My head hurt.
Nitros. Ever heard of Nitros? No, me neither. At least not until last week. I admit I don't exactly hunt these things down, but I read about the new releases. I watch out for the new issues of Mega, Nintendo Power, and CVG. I don't have the money for most of the games, but I know what's hot. And Nitros? Nitros I've never heard of. My cousin Ricky picked it up at an old second-hand store his mom took him to about a month ago. Her treat for a week without classroom drama. My dad lets us play stuff on his PC when he's not busy, mostly just to get us out of his head. So we play on there. I think it's German or French. I don't really know languages. I know the text on the box is in English though. From the back cover it looks like just any other racer. Sweet VGA graphics, Sound Blaster audio. I wasn't even sure our computer could run it at first, but it ended up running just fine in the end. I like the graphics well enough. It was just a regular racer for the most part. There were some weird elements though, and it has a really odd sense of humour. You don't just jump into the game, you have to enter your name and then pick a hero. I use the term loosely. From a list of characters. think they're supposed to be based on famous races, but I didn't recognise any of them. Clive Timmis, Jace Emerson, Laser Stokes, John F. I'm not big into racing, but I didn't know any of the names. And none of them looked particularly happy either. It was weird. I wanted to do the design of the game. The game seemed a whole pack of odd little things in general. There wasn't really a title screen when it booted up. The game just booted to the menu, but you press enter on new game, and then you get a title screen. Nitros, the drive of your life, flashes up, and the company name, Togkoff Inc. I don't know, something like that, and a little smiling face at the bottom. And underneath the game title, the words, "Are you ready to wager your life?" The weird thing was, I'm not interpreting this either. It was all in English. So I don't know if there was a mix-up with the factory or something, or why the box was in a different language. Anyway, it was just me and my cousin Ricky playing, so we just hit yes, entered our names as best we could in the small space, and picked up characters. Something about Laser Stokes struck me as familiar. The face I'd never seen before. He looked so miserable. But for some reason the name sounded a lot like that cartoon that everybody at school was obsessed with not too long back. As you had all the kids running about calling themselves Laser Stokes, Defender of the Universe. The character looked so miserable, but he was still the best of a bad bunch. The game itself was pretty standard. My dad always buys those 100 games for $1 floppy disks, and apart from the stylish box, Nitros really had that cheap, lazy feel to it. So yeah, we raced around a couple of the tracks, and I let him play and he let me play for a bit. It was fun enough. Really hard game though. Neither of us managed to get past the 5th race. All the races are pretty easy up until that one. Then suddenly the game becomes impossibly hard. Like, I've never had that sort of challenge before. We ended up giving up playing, it was so difficult. You just sort of hit this brick wall, pretty much. And honestly, we were both tired of that laughing skull that appeared every time we died. It was just stupid. Anyway, I guess what I'm getting to is what really creeped me out. So, how do I explain this? So we finished playing, practically having given up, hit the brick wall like I said. The game taunted us to continue after our last spell, but we just decided to leave it. It felt a little bit too much like the game was trying to cheat us, given how quickly the difficulty had ramped up, and frankly, we were just getting a bit tired of it, so we decided to leave it. But as Dad called us for tea, the screen suddenly changed to black, and the race isn't over till you pay the wager. In 1 month's time, you lose. Flashed up on the screen, like in the briefest of moments, and then disappeared. Ricky was already halfway down the stairs by the time it showed up, but I saw it. Honestly, I didn't think any more of it. We ate and then went outside. I completely forgot about the game till a week or so ago. It rained and I was bored, and Ricky hadn't come over in days, so I decided to just play it some more, see if I can beat it this time. Except, when I went looking for the game on my dad's computer, it was missing. There was nothing there. I checked the desktop, the icon was gone. I checked the computer, and there was nothing. The folder was there, but it was empty. Save for a readme file. That was beyond weird, though. No name, no details, nothing about the software in the file. Just the words, "What's the matter? Haven't got anything to do? Why don't you come for a drive, Terry? Ricky's already here and keeping all your favorites company. In hell." It scared me, but I ended up thinking it was probably just Ricky and his sick sense of humor. The next few days really passed with no incident. I asked my dad and he said he hadn't touched the computer, at least not any of the games, so I just played other stuff. The Nitros folder just seemed to disappear after that, and I completely forgot about it. Till this morning. I phoned Ricky and his mom picked up. Said she was frantic. Ricky had disappeared. She said she'd found some sort of leaflet in his room, possibly for a party that he was way too young for. She read the leaflet out to me. Nitros, the drive of your life. Come along for a drive. To hell. She didn't know what it meant, but I did. She practically begged me to tell her if I knew anything. All I could do was lie and say I'd never heard of it. Nitros. That damn game. Something called to me. Ended up booting the PC up, only to find Nitros had somehow returned. I loaded it up again, only to feel fear run through me when I checked the character select screen. There were 7 characters before, and now there were 8. The newest character looked familiar, and then I read the name. Ricky S. Ricky S. Ricky S. I recognized the face, the now downcast eyes, the hair, the bony cheeks. It was Ricky. Ricky was in the game, somehow. But as I moved the selector over him, something weird happened. His face changed and began to melt, and he let out a harrowing cry. I reeled backwards, almost off my chair, and the screen faded to black.
What's the matter, Terry? Didn't you have a drive of your life? Looks like you'll be handing in your pink slip after this race is over.
The text disappeared almost as quickly as it had appeared. Then,
Nitros, the death race. Tell all your friends. It'll be the ride of their lives.
flashed across the screen. And then suddenly the computer's inside began to hiss and bubble, as if it was on fire. I switched it off, and haven't touched it since. I've been busy looking through magazines, but I can't find anything on Nitros. It's like it doesn't exist. But I know it's real. I've played it. I can't find the folder on the computer, but I've played it. Am I next? I played it only days after Ricky first got it. Will I disappear like he did? Maybe it's about the race, though. Maybe if I can win that last race, I can beat this. I'm leaving this so somebody knows what happened to me. And please, please, if you ever come across a game called Nitros, don't play it. Not unless you want to wager your life.
Hey, this is Aaron, aka Mixeve, and with me I have my kiddo.
And that would be Connor Yost.
That would be Connor Yost.
Herobrine!
We are going to do a Herobrine copy pasta for you. This is the one that started the whole thing. Have you ever heard this before, Connor?
No.
Okay, well, let me start reading here. I had recently spawned a new world in single-player Minecraft. Everything was normal at first as I began chopping down trees and crafting a workbench. I noticed something move amongst the dense fog. I have a very slow computer, so I have to play with a tiny render distance. I thought it was a cow, so I pursued it, hoping to grab some hides for armor. It wasn't a cow, though. Looking back at me was another character with a default skin, but his eyes were empty. I saw no name pop up, and I double-checked to make sure I wasn't in multiplayer mode. He didn't stay long. He looked at me and quickly ran into the fog. I pursued out of curiosity, but he was gone. I continued on with the game, not sure what to think. As I expanded the world, I saw things that seemed out of place for the random map generator to make. 2x2 tunnels in the rocks, small perfect pyramids made out of sand in the ocean, and groves of trees with all their leaves cut off. I would constantly think I saw the other player in the deep fog, but I never got a better look at him. I tried increasing my render distance to far whenever I thought I saw him, but to no avail. I saved the map and went on to the forums to see if anyone else had found the pseudo-player. There were none. I created my own topic telling of the man and asking if anyone had a similar experience. The post was deleted within 5 minutes. I tried again, and the topic was deleted even faster. I received a PM from username Herobrine containing one word, stop. When I went to look at Herobrine's profile, the page 404'd. I received an email from another forum user. He claimed the mods can read the forum user messages, so we were safer using email. The emailer claimed he had seen the Mystery Player too, and had a small directory of other users who had seen him as well. Their worlds were littered with obviously man-made features as well, and described the Mystery Player to have no pupils. About a month passed until I heard from my informant again. Some of the people who had encountered the Mystery Man had looked into the name Herobrine and found the name to be frequently used by a Swedish gamer. After some further information gathering, it was revealed to be the brother of Notch, the game's developer. I personally emailed Notch and asked him if he had a brother. It took him a while, but he emailed me back a very short message. I did, but he is no longer with us. Notch. I haven't seen the Mystery Man since our first encounter, and I haven't noticed any changes to the world other than my own. I was able to press print screen when I first saw him. Here's the only evidence I have of his existence. You see that in the fog? What's that? Herobrine. So what do you think? Is that kind of creepy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty cool, huh? Well,
He was right beside the fog.
he was right beside the fog, indeed. Creepy no eyes. Ooh.
Looking at Steve.
Well, that is it. I hope you enjoyed this creepypasta. This is Aaron, and
Can I have it?
bye.
Gil and his friend Noah were looking for games for their Sega Saturn at EB Games when they came across Sonic R. Gil was going to ask how much it was, but when he got to the counter, the salesperson said for them to take the game for free and get out. When Noah heard the salesperson say, "Take the game with you," he dropped the games he was looking at and ran over to Gil. "Did he say we could have the game for free?" he asked. Gil was going to shake his head no when the salesperson said, "Yes." Noah grabbed Gil by his arm and the game and pulled them out of the store into his house. When they got to Noah's house, Noah got his Sega Saturn and Sonic R and put the game in. When the game started, they didn't see Sonic or Knuckles. They only saw what looked like Tails. Noah thought that it was just a glitch or that someone hacked it, but Gil knew that it was more than a glitch or a hacked game. Much more evil. The first thing they noticed when Noah started the first race was that the track was full of dark red and black, and the music that was playing was "Can You Feel the Sunshine," but played backwards. Noah thought that it was a hack, but Gil thought that the game was haunted. He didn't think that their copy was the only haunted version of the game. He thought all of the copies were haunted by Tails. When Noah beat the first race, he unlocked Supersonic. Gil knew that Noah didn't get all 7 Chaos Emeralds, but Noah didn't question how he got him, but he did stand up and cheer for himself. "How'd you unlock him so quickly?" asked Gil. "I don't know!" Noah screamed excitedly. "Why are you questioning it, Gil?" "Something feels weird about this game," Gil said. "The game feels haunted or something." "You've been watching too many horror movies," Noah said. "You know I don't watch that stuff, Noah," Gil said. Noah finished his second race with Supersonic when the game said a challenger was approaching. When the challenger approaching screen faded away, the screen faded into black and stayed black for about 2 minutes. It then cut to a picture of Sonic being violently attacked by what looked to be a stuffed animal version of Tails, with a very loud screaming and laughter for a split second. Then it went to the race. When the race started, Supersonic was standing on the track by himself after the "Ready, Set, Go" was said. Supersonic started to move by himself. Gil looked over to Noah and saw his hands burn on the controller. As soon as Supersonic crossed the finish line, Noah was able to control him, and what looked like Tails was right behind him. When Supersonic and Tails crossed the finish line, it looked like Tails won, but it said Supersonic won. That's when it said they unlocked the Tails doll and the Tails doll curse. When this happened, Noah and Gil both looked very confused. "Is that a letter?" Noah asked Gil, and all Gil could do was nod his head. Noah went to play as the Tails doll when the letter opened up. "Whatever you do, don't read that letter," Gil warned Noah, but Noah didn't listen and read it anyways. What it read was, "Can you feel the sunshine?" lyrics backwards. When Noah was done, the TV started to vibrate. Noah took a hammer and started to hit the TV with it. The TV stopped vibrating. "I stopped the TV from vibrating," Noah said. Yes, but how do we play the game now? Gil said. I have a TV in my room, Noah said as he unplugged the system from the broken TV and wall. You do know that your mom and dad are going to kill you for breaking the TV, Gil said. I know, Noah said, but it was worth it. They then went upstairs to Noah's bedroom. When they got to Noah's bedroom, the broken TV started to vibrate again, and the Tails doll came out. Noah and Gil were now playing a different game because of what happened. They were playing Sonic Adventure 2 on the Sega Dreamcast when the doorbell rang. Noah and Gil went to answer the door. When they opened it, no one was there. Noah closed the door when the doorbell rang again. Noah opened the door, and no one was there. He closed the door but kept his hands on the doorknob. The doorbell rang again, and Noah opened the door as fast as he could, but no one was there. The only thing that was there was a Tails doll. Noah brought it inside the house and washed what looked like blood off of it in the kitchen sink. When he washed the blood off of it, he set it up in front of a couple of dishes to dry, and went upstairs. That's when the Tails doll stood up and flew off the counter and onto the floor. He then walked to the stairs and flew up them as he went to Noah's bedroom. Gil then felt like they were both being watched by something evil. Hey Noah, do you feel like we're being watched? Gil asked Noah. Are you sure you don't watch horror movies? Noah asked Gil. Of course I'm sure, Gil said. I have to go to the bathroom, Gil said. As he was walking to the bathroom, he saw something out of the corner of his eye. It looked like a Tails doll, so he turned towards his left and didn't see anything. He looked to his right and didn't see anything. He thought that it was his imagination and went to the bathroom. When he was going back to the bedroom, he saw something move, so he went to go see what it was. He then saw it move again and walked towards it. Gil saw the Tails doll and walked over to pick it up and bring it to the room. When he brought it up and showed Noah it, Noah asked Gil, Where did you find it? I found it by the stairs, Gil said. I thought I left it in the kitchen. Anyways, let's play Sonic R again, Noah said. Don't you remember what happened before? Gil said. Yeah, so? Noah said. So do you want to kill your TV too? Gil said. That was a freak accident, Noah said as he put the game in the Sega Saturn. He then played the tag game as the Tails doll, and as soon as he tagged the last person, the Tails doll that was in the room came to life. Noah and Gil both stood up and walked towards the door. Noah opened it, and they both ran as fast as they could down the stairs and almost got to the front door when the Tails doll fell in front of them and killed Noah with his razor-sharp claws. This made Gil very angry, and he grabbed a baseball bat and started swinging it at the Tails doll, each hit missing. He swung it one last time before the Tails doll caught it and broke it. Gil then stepped on its head and ran to the kitchen to get one of the kitchen knives and swung at the doll again. Tails doll caught it again and killed Gil. Tails doll went back into the upstairs TV. The police then came to the house because the neighbors called saying that they heard a lot of noise coming from Noah's room. But when they got there, Noah and Gil were both upstairs in Noah's bedroom. One of the police officers took the Sega Saturn to the station, and his partner said that there was no murder weapon.
Pokemon Black is a game I found at a flea market 5 years ago, and as far as I know, no one else has ever played this game, or heard of it, at least on the forums I go on, or the websites I check for bootlegged Pokemon games. The game started with a familiar Nidorino and Gengar intro of the red and blue versions. However, the press start screen had been altered. The character Red was there, but the Pokemon did not cycle through. It also said Black version under the Pokemon logo. Upon selecting New Game, the game started with Professor Oak's speech, and it quickly became evident that the game was essentially the Pokemon Red version. After selecting your starter, if you looked at your Pokemon, you had an addition to Bulbasaur, Charmander, or Squirtle, another Pokemon that was simply titled Ghost. The Pokemon was at level 1. It had the sprite of the ghosts that are encountered in Lavender Town before obtaining the Sith scope. It had one attack, called Curse. I know that there's a real move named Curse, but that attack didn't exist in Generation 1, so I thought it had just been hacked in. Defending Pokemon were unable to attack ghosts. It would only say they were too scared to move. When the move Curse was used in battle, the screen would cut to black. The cry of the defending Pokemon would be heard, but it was distorted, playing at a much lower pitch than normal. The battle screen would then reappear, and the defending Pokemon would simply be gone. If used in a battle against a trainer, when the Pokeballs representing their Pokemon would appear in the corner, they would have one fewer Pokeball. The implication was that Pokemon had died. What's even stranger is that after defeating a trainer and seeing Red received $200 for winning, the battle commands would appear again. If you selected Run, the battle would end, as it normally does. You could also select Curse. If you did, upon returning to the overworld, the trainer's sprite would be gone. After leaving and re-entering the area, the spot where the trainer had been would be replaced with a tombstone, like the ones at Lavender Tower. The move Curse was not unseeable or unusual in all instances. It would fail against ghost Pokemon. It would also fail if it was used against trainers that you would have to face again, such as your rival or Giovanni. It was usable in your final battle against them, however. I figured this was a gimmick of the game, allowing you to see the previously uncaptured ghosts, and because Curse made the game so easy, I essentially used it throughout the whole adventure. The game changed quite a bit after defeating the Elite Four. After viewing the Hall of Fame, which consisted of Ghost and a couple of very under-level Pokemon, the screen cut to black. A box appeared with the words, "Many years later." It then cut to Lavender Tower. An old man was standing, looking at tombstones. You then realized this man was your character. The man moved at only half of your normal walking speed. You no longer had any Pokemon with you, not even Ghost, who up to this point had been impossible to remove from your party through depositing in the PC. The overworld was entirely empty. There was no people at all. There were still the tombstones of the trainers that you used Cursed on, however. You could go pretty much anywhere in the overworld at this point, though your movement was limited by the fact that you had no Pokemons to use HMs. And regardless of where you went, the music of Lavender Town continued on an infinite loop. After wandering for a while, I found that if you go through Diglett's cave, one of the cuttable bushes that normally blocks the path on the other side is no longer there, allowing you to advance and return to Pallet Town. Upon entering your house and going to the exact tile where you start the game, the screen would cut to black. Then a sprite of Caterpie appeared. It was replaced by a Weedle, and then a Pidgey. I soon realized, as Pokemon progressed from Rattata to Blastoise, that these were all Pokemon that I'd used Curse on. At the end of my rival's team, a youngster appeared, and then a Bugcatcher. These were the trainers I had cursed. Throughout the sequence, the Lavender Town music was playing, but it was slowly decreasing in pitch. By the time your rival appeared on screen, it was little more than a demonic rumble. Another cut to black. A few moments later, the battle screen suddenly appeared. Your trainer sprite was now that of an old man, the same as the one who teaches you how to catch Pokemon in Viridian City. Ghost appear on the other side, along with the words "Ghost wants to fight." You can't use items, and you had no Pokemon. If you tried to run, you couldn't escape. The only option was fight. Using fight would immediately cause you to use struggle, which didn't affect Ghost, but did chip off a bit of your own HP. When it was Ghost's turn to attack, it would simply say ... Eventually, when your HP reached a critical point, Ghost would finally use Curse. The screen cut to black a final time. Regardless of the buttons you pressed, you're permanently stuck in this black screen. At this point, the only thing you could do was turn the Game Boy off. When you played again, New Game was the only option. The game that you had played had erased the file. I played through this hacked game many times, and every time the game ended with this sequence. Several times I didn't use Ghost at all, though he was impossible to remove from the party. In these cases, it did not show any Pokemon or trainers, and simply cut to the climactic battle with Ghost. I'm not sure what motives were behind the creator of this hack. It wasn't widely distributed, so it was presumably not for monetary gain. It was really well done for a bootleg. It seems that he was trying to convey a message, though it seems I'm the sole receiver of this message. I'm not entirely sure what it was. Inevitability of death, the pointlessness of it. Perhaps he was simply trying to morbidly inject death and darkness into a children's game. Regardless, this children's game has made me think, and it has made me cry.
It was cool for a summer night. 3 a.m., just in time for the humidity to dissipate and the cool air to come. Dad and I driving on small country roads. So dark and winding. Seemed unreal. Still remember the song on the radio. Time won't give me time, but time makes lovers feel like they got something real. But you and me, we know we got nothing but time. I was nervous from excitement. Finally going to see death. Death caused by my own hands. Shotguns in the back seat. Gas cans in the trunk. The Target family had wronged us. Or so I was told. All the justification I needed as a 16-year-old who didn't really understand the value of human life yet. The drive took about 30 minutes. Fucking country roads. Couldn't even call it a town. One stoplight, a country store, their house in a green silo. We parked in the field across their land. Showed Dad how the trick I learned to keep the lights off in his Lumina while it was running. Just gotta slide the dial in between off and parking and no lights. Otherwise the small beam stayed on. He fumbled a few times, so I had to do it. Got out of the car. Cool air again. Dad gets the gas cans ready. I'm on shotgun duty, carefully loading the shells. He was the lookout. I was the hitter. Grabbed the gas cans and my shotgun and started the long walk across the fields. Thank God for the cool air. So many thoughts running through my head. Going over the plan again and again. Gas the entire house. Light the house. Wait for anyone running out. Put them down with the shotgun. Started thinking on something I had asked Dad when we were planning this. Are there any kids? Probably, he said. What do we do with them? No one escapes. Still shakes me a little. But I was ready to do what needed to be done. 5 shots in the shotgun and I could reload faster than I could sign my name if it came to it. First gas can was enough to cover the front of the house and one side. Second can took care of the rest. Surprised they didn't wake from the smell. Looked back towards the field at Dad. One flash from a flashlight. It's time to work. Then a second flash. What the fuck, I thought. Something's up. Grabbed the cans and my gun and started heading back to see what's going on. What's up, Dad? Something doesn't feel right. Not tonight, he said. We loaded up, headed out. Long fucking ride back. Real quiet. Never asked exactly why we stopped. Probably never will. But the person I am today is glad we did. Knowing now that living with what we were going to do would be impossible. Especially when I look at my own little girl. But sometimes, when I'm holding her extra tight, and those horrible thoughts of all the bad things that could possibly happen to her creep into my mind, I get a little comfort from the voice in the back of my head. Don't worry, baby girl, it says. Anything ever happens to you, no one escapes the fire. No one escapes the fire.
My story begins late last year when my brothers lost a copy of Star Tropics I had let them borrow. I began looking for another one at various stores and eventually tracked down a cartridge at Goodwill. It seemed to be in pretty good condition, save for some stickers on the label, so I went ahead and bought it. When I brought it home and put it in my NES, the graphics were kind of weird. They were in a sepia tone rather than the colors I'd been used to, but this was actually kind of cool to me because it reminded me of Indiana Jones. I continued to play, and everything else seemed normal till I got to the boss room of the Ghost Tunnel dungeon in the 3rd chapter. This boss room, you use your Rod of Sight to make the boss visible. He's a ghost who you otherwise cannot see. And normally he'll start shooting out his mini-ghosts at you, and they'll do damage when they hit the player character. Only this time, those ghosts weren't doing any damage when they hit. They were just going right through the player sprite and lining up one by one along the horizontal wall at the bottom of the screen. I defeated the boss, and then these ghosts started merging together, and as each one merged with the ghost next to it, some of the bright blues and greens that had been in the game growing up faded back into the game world until the graphics seemed completely normal. Then, when there was only one ghost left, it flew up and started following the player character, Mike Jones. There's nothing else I could really do in this room, so I continued on to the next room and then on to the final room of the dungeon, where there's a large pit, and in between you and the player character and the pit, there is a tile. When you jump on this tile, it causes a skull in the wall to start spewing forth water. At least it normally does. This water comes draining in from the lake outside the dungeon. Only this time, instead of water, a reddish liquid came in, which I can only assume was meant to be blood. It's 8-bit graphics, so it's hard to tell for sure, but that's what I'm thinking. This pit fills with blood, and then the screen fades out, and I'm now outside of the dungeon in the graveyard next to the now drained lake, which is normal. I walk into the drained lake, grab the crystal ball that is waiting at the bottom. This ghost that had been following me inside the dungeon is now following me outside. I bring this crystal ball to the fortune teller hut. The ghosts follow me the entire time. Now, normally, when you go into the fortune teller hut, you'll give her the crystal ball, she'll give her a little spiel, and the game will proceed. Well, this time, I enter the hut, and instead of the normal fortune teller sprite, it's her skeleton, motionless, sitting behind her table. I put the crystal ball on the table, and immediately her fires on either side of the table are extinguished. The ghost that had been following me is now ramming the exit stairs in a repeating animation, kind of motioning for me to leave. I follow it and exit the fortune teller hut, and when I'm outside, everything looks kind of scorched. The green grass is now a grayish color, and the water is now a red, which again I'm thinking was meant to be blood. The ghost is now ahead of me at each screen, and if there's an exit to another tile, he's doing his ramming animation over and over until I follow him. He leads me back to the graveyard we had just been in, and once we get there, he changes from his open mouth, kind of agape expression to this twisted, creepy grin, and starts hovering behind a particular gravestone. I walked up to this gravestone and instinctively pressed A to read it, and then a text box fills the entire screen. It has my entire name, first, middle, and last, and below that it says December 2nd, 1984, hyphen, February 10th, 2015. Now, that first date is my birthday, and given that I had my full name and my birthday, I can only assume that the second date was meant to be the day of my death. This freaks me out. I try and back out of the text screen, but nothing's happening. The game is frozen. I look down at the NES, and the red light is flashing, so I hit the reset button. It does nothing. I hit the power button, and the red light goes off, but this screen is still on my TV, kind of mocking me with my date of death. I change the channel, and now the screen finally goes away. This happened a couple weeks ago, and I still haven't touched my NES or put the TV back to channel 3 since. I'm really kind of disturbed, and I have no idea what I can do. All I really know is that I fully expect to be dead in about a year and a half by the time February 10th, 2015 rolls around.
Hey guys, this is Zodiac Eclipse, and I'll be reading I Can't Stop, a Mass Effect creepypasta. I have always enjoyed playing video games that offer a variety of locations to visit, cultures to interact with, and give you more than mindless shooting. I invest in the stories and characters in my game, maybe because I'm lonely, or maybe because I feel like I don't fit in this world. Mass Effect 2 was a game I had eagerly awaited. It had everything I wanted in a game and would occupy my time, so I didn't have to interact with my family, my so-called friends, and people I had utter disdain for. You're doing this wrong, Jane. Come on, Jane, put an effort in. Life was going so well for me, and how little did I realize how worse it would get. All because of... I can't stop the signal. I had actually watched a lot of footage and trailers of Mass Effect 2, and what I actually saw in the game was different, sometimes only slightly, sometimes quite a lot. I had come across some leaked footage of Shepard's revival by Cerberus, and how it actually occurred in-game was, well, quite disturbing. I'm surprised such horrific scenes were allowed in the game. BioWare didn't seem to be people who aimed to be extremely gory, but here before me was a distorted scene where a charred skeletal figure, Shepard, was slung in a dark, damp room, glowing with eerie, dull reds and greens. Her skull looked bashed and her jaw was missing. It was all a bit too gruesome. The scene ended with shadows coming from the corner of the screen, creeping closer to this charred corpse, and then a sudden, static screen accompanied by a scream happened. It made me jump, I have to admit, and I can't stop. Miranda's ass is pretty mesmerizing. Game animations have come a long way, thankfully. I am going to miss that ass and her character. I'm not shallow, but I can't believe that you could not only lose your Normandy crew halfway through the game, but how you lose them. Miranda was following a lead regarding her sister's whereabouts. I decided to help her with this mission, but her response to that dialogue option was, "No, Shepard, stop," and she walked away. I went back to the Normandy and went looking for her to get an update, but she wasn't in her office. She wasn't anywhere on board the ship. Kelly then left me a message, telling me to come to the galaxy map, as a message had been transmitted, initiating a little screen that randomly appeared beside the map. Began a cutscene where not only myself but the rest of the crew gathered around. It was one of those holographic transmissions. It was just... even thinking about it turns my stomach now. Miranda's torso, her arms, her legs were gone. But that wasn't the only thing that disturbed me. The crew, they were laughing. It was so corrupt, so cruel. I couldn't understand what they were saying. It sounded so mangled. But they found this image amusing. They were pleased, almost. The cutscene ended, and no one but me and Kelly remained by the map. And as if it never happened, Kelly said in her sweet voice, "You have a message, Commander." I was scared to check, to be honest, but reluctantly I did. It was simply a text message, and it read, "I can't stop, Jane." I had decided to stop playing the game. It had taken a completely different art and story route that I was frankly disgusted by. I sent an email to BioWare telling them of my dissatisfaction and that it didn't help that after that horrible scene I got a message addressed to me. I hadn't even selected Jane as my forename. After a few hours, a ping on my phone alerted me to an email, and it was from BioWare. I opened it, and all it read was, "I can't stop, Jane. The signal." I was worried, but I thought that someone was just taking the piss. Then another ping, and another. 7 or 8 pings, all emails, all saying the same thing. Then another message, this time with an attached image. It was the Normandy crew. They were all in some sort of pods, stuck to a semi-organic wall. I could see Dr. Chalk was, and I could see someone who looked somewhat like myself, but it must have been my Shepard. Then another ping, and this time a video. I played it, my hand shaking, and saw that the crew were being flooded and drowning in some strange gloop inside these pods. Wasn't this what forums talked about when the crew was captured by the Collectors? The camera zoomed in, past the decaying, melting bodies, the detail as visceral as Miranda's murder and Shepard's first scene. It zoomed in on a character who was gasping in the pod, screaming something. The closer it got, the more I saw it was me. I was in the pod. I was dying, screaming, "I can't stop." I threw my phone on the floor and felt sick. What the hell was going on? I threw my game in the bin, sat down, and tried to calm down. Ping.